Hey everybody, wanted to do a little bit of a different kind of video today, and I have some graphics that I've put together that I'm going to show you. That's why you're not seeing my face here. You guys know I usually like to put my face with my videos. I figure if you're going to put your opinion out there, you should also be willing to put your face out there. But for this one, it's going to be a little bit different, voiceover type of video. Anyway, we live in an era in boxing where I notice a lot of fans and fan channels on YouTube, people on Twitter, et cetera, like to talk about financials, like to talk about how much the fighters are making, how much the networks are spending, the budgets, all this kind of stuff, ratings. Nobody really talks about the fans, though. Nobody talks about what you guys are spending, how much fights are costing you. And I just find that really interesting. So I wanted to put together some graphics here to kind of compare the three worlds of boxing here in the United States right now. That is, of course, ESPN/ESPN Plus in Top Rank. And then in the other world, you have Showtime and Fox, that's PBC. And then everybody else on DAZN, the subscription service that's brand new here in the United States. So I wanted to compare what you guys are getting, basically bang for your buck, how much it's costing you at the end of the year, and what fights you're getting, what kind of quality we're getting so far. We're going to track that. So let's go ahead and start this graphic here. We're going to add to it as we progress. So here you have DAZN, ESPN, and Showtime/Fox. And I have the annual subscription cost below. Now, some of you guys may be looking at these figures and scratching your head. Let me explain real quick before we move forward. So with DAZN, on March 25th of this year, they announced that they are increasing their subscription price from about $10 a month to $20 a month. Well, if you already were subscribed, then you're kind of grandfathered into the $10 a month fee, and you get that for another year. So basically till March of 2020. Also, if you are brand new and you buy a whole year, you could get that for $100. So some of you might be saying, well, it only cost me $100. Some of you might be saying, well, it's costing me more than that. For the sake of argument in this graphic, we're going to assume that everybody, all of you, were signed up to all three of these platforms January 1st, 2019. So if you were, DAZN will cost you $120 this year. All right. Now with ESPN and ESPN Plus, the ESPN Plus app costs $5 a month. So an annual charge would be $60. You see I have $96 there. Why is that? Because the actual network, ESPN, is costing you money as part of your basic cable package. Now, working in boxing media, I have, met some network folks and talked to them about this. Generally speaking, from my sources at ESPN, in most markets, there is some variation to a degree, but for the most part, the ESPN package on your basic cable is costing you about $3 a month. That whatever you're paying for basic cable, about $3 of it is paying for ESPN. So that comes out to $8 a month or $96 a year. And then with Showtime/Fox, of course, Fox is free. That is part of just your regular television that you get. And Showtime, again, it can vary depending on market. It can vary depending on what kind of specials they got going on. But generally, from my people at Showtime, what they tell me, or actually CBS or whoever they're owned by, it's about $11 a month. Okay? That comes out to $132 a year. So that is what you have. So just from the jump, from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, ESPN is the best deal on paper. And Showtime, of course, that's premium cable. You get a lot more than just sports, a lot more than just boxing, but it's costing you the most, okay? And that's just where we start. But they're all, generally speaking, pretty close. They're all pretty close. Let's look at the first quarter of this year. Okay, so I listed the fights that I could just kind of remember off the top of my head. If I'm missing anything, or if any of my financial figures look way off to some of you guys, let me know in the comment section, all right? And I will add to this graphic as we go throughout the year. I'll try to make it as absolutely accurate and fair as possible. But with DAZN, they had a really slow start to this year. Of course, they were supposed to have the World Boxing Super Series semifinals in the first quarter. And when the budget issues that hit that tournament, when all that was going on, that really hurt DAZN. It really, really hurt their bottom line in the first quarter. So some of the cards that were on there are Linares Cano, Demetrius Andre. They fought in January. Of course, the Machado Cancio fight, which was the upset of the year up until that point. Bevel Smith and Farmer Carroll. So that's all you had really in the first quarter. Then over at ESPN/ESPN Plus, you had the Kovalev Alvarez rematch, which was a very good fight and a good performance by Kovalev, obviously. And then you see a couple different other fights here. Pulev Dinu, that's where you had the whole kiss gate thing with that sushi girl after the fight. And Vosdik was on there, but not a whole lot on ESPN either. They had a really slow start to the year. Now, if you go over to PBC, they had a kick-ass start to the year. Although 2 of those fights in that first quarter were pay-per-view. So again, for the sake of argument, I know some of you guys out there watching this are Team Stream and you don't pay for any of this shit, but I'm talking about the people who are actually fair and honest and are paying for everything, okay? So Pacquiao-Broner pay-per-view, that was a fight nobody really asked for. Broner was not at all deserving of that, but that's what you guys got. It was a fight with names, but because Pacquiao, the deal he signed with PBC and the money that they agreed to and everything, pretty much all of his fights with PBC will be pay-per-view, no matter who he fights. So that's how PBC basically started their year. But then you got, Thurman, the return of Keith Thurman. And then you had some other cards here, Eubank DeGale, Ortiz Hammer. Porter Ugas was a good fight. Then Spence Garcia. So that really, again, that was a fight nobody was really asking for, but it was intriguing because there are still questions about Spence and for Garcia, moving up, daring to be great, all that. I actually covered that fight ringside there in Dallas, and I got to say, it was a pretty great event just being there. It wasn't a great fight, but I thought that Errol Spence proved in that fight that he is just a level above Garcia. I don't think the weight had a damn thing to do with it. If they were the same damn size, I think Errol Spence would completely shut out Mikey Garcia. He's just that much better. Garcia is just not quite at the level that a lot of people used to rate him, and I've been saying that for years. This fight kind of proved it. Anyway, you see right there the cost. Twice you were charged about $85. I know that they advertise these pay-per-views for $75, but that's standard def. It's bullshit. Nobody out there is standard def anymore. Whoever orders pay-per-views, they get the high def, and that was costing you $85. Now, if my figure's off, if it was really 80 or 90, let me know. But from my memory, they were $85. Let's go into the second quarter. Okay, so here in the second quarter, DAZN gets busier, right? Because they finally picked up the World Boxing Super Series semifinals, and those were all very good cards. But you also saw the return of Jaime Munguia. You had the biggest event of the year to date with the Canelo Jacobs card in Vegas. Rungvisai Estrada too. And then all the World Boxing Super Series cards, right? Inoue Taylor and the cruiserweight semis, with the 118, 140 semis. We saw the return of Triple G. So pretty busy schedule, pretty good bang for your buck. I think of all 3 platforms, DAZN had the best second quarter. If we go over to ESPN, you saw Lomachenko. That's good. That was a mandatory fight, though, not necessarily a great opponent. But you look at the rest of the schedule here, it's pretty soft, man. Crawford Khan, nobody wanted that fight, much like Pacquiao-Broner. But because of the money involved, they had to go pay-per-view, and I believe that one was $80. Again, if I'm off, please correct me. You see there was some good action here. There were some good fights. I thought that Herring beating Ito, that was pretty much, in my opinion, the story of the year up to that point in 2019. I thought that was the feel-good story of the year. Of course, Cancio Machado, we talked about that. But Jamel Herring, just everything he was facing going into that fight, the significance of the date of the fight for him and everything. The new issue of Ring Magazine that's about to hit stores very soon. I have a piece in there. I interviewed Jamel Herring. He's an awesome guy, a fellow former Marine, and I talk about his story at length in that article. So be sure to check that out, guys. But also, let's see, we saw the return of Tyson Fury. And of course, Colme Beltran, right? That's a good, solid matchup. So overall, a couple decent fights in there, and some star power with Fury, who really, did a very good job on his ESPN debut, and then Crawford, Lomachenko. But again, you were charged an extra $80 for a pay-per-view that nobody wanted, right? Now, if you go over here to PBC, we had Derevyanchenko Kolke, which wasn't that great of a fight. The return of Danny Garcia, Easter Bartholomew, which that wasn't very good. Hurd Williams, fight of the year so far, and another feel-good story for Julian J. Rock Williams to take that title from Jarrett Hurd. Really, really great action. That was on national network television. It did a pretty good rating, not a great rating, but they're supposed to do a rematch. If they do that again and it's on regular network TV again, I think that will do a very good rating the second time around. That is my fight of the year so far. I thought that was an outstanding fight and a great performance by J-Rock. And then you had Wilder, Brazil. Wilder scoring what will probably end up being the knockout of the year. So that was on Showtime. It wasn't pay-per-view, which is good, but it wasn't on national TV. However, memes and GIFs, or GIFs, I think you're supposed to call them GIFs, of that knockout were all over social media, and mainstream news outlets were covering it. So that was very good exposure for Deontay Wilder. And then the return of the Charlos, and of course, Charlo Cota. That was supposed to be Harrison Charlo 2, but Harrison was injured. So, and by the way, Tony Harrison not faking that injury. I was just in Detroit working out at some gyms, talking to guys who know Harrison to work out with him, and they told me that injury is legit. He's not faking it, whatever, regardless of what Charlo says. So anyway, a good second quarter, I would say, all around in boxing. If you just look at the fights that we got, and only one pay-per-view, so that's solid. But if you look halfway through the year and you look at the cost associated, you start to see here where the value has been so far, guys. And I don't work for any of these networks. I'm an independent operator. I work for different platforms around the world in the UK and here in the USA, and I do projects for people here and there. But I am completely independent of any of these networks. So it's not like I have a stake in the game here or I'm trying to be biased. I'm just trying to show you where your dollars are being spent and how they're being spent as a boxing fan and what you're getting for that. Now, we're only halfway through the year. We still got a whole half of the year to go. And from what I've noticed just in years past with different platforms, I expect DAZN and ESPN to have a better second half to the year than they had a first half. That's generally speaking how the folks involved, the promoters involved, do business. They stack it up a little more on the second half of the year. And if you look at PBC, generally speaking, they stack up the first half of the year. And the second half of the year, particularly the third quarter, is usually soft for them. However, there are some fights coming up with PBC that have a lot of star power. So let's take a look at the third quarter, what's on the schedule so far, just real quick. And most of this is speculative, but let's take a quick look. Okay, for DAZN, we know that we're getting that unification fight between Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez, July 27th. That is an outstanding matchup, and that's actually turned into a good card. They got a good co-main on that. That's going to be a really, really fun card. Nothing substantial scheduled on ESPN yet, but we are going to see, of course, Lomachenko again, Teofimo Lopez. I think we're going to get Lomachenko and Campbell. I at the time I'm recording this, I don't know if that's official yet or not, but that is coming up. That will not be pay-per-view, so that will be a good addition for ESPN. Let's go over to Showtime, though. Showtime and Fox, PBC. We've got Thurman Pacquiao, or there should be Pacquiao Thurman, the pay-per-view, July 20th. That's set. That's an interesting fight, but again, you're being charged $85. Cavnacci and Areola, August 3rd. That should be an all action fight, and they've got some nice fights on that card. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know how significant the fights are, though. But then two fights that aren't yet set, we don't know, but they're rumored to be almost set, almost official. Garcia versus Garcia in late August, and then Spence versus Porter in September. Now, both of these so far, it's been rumored, are going to be on pay-per-view. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if one of them will get pushed to regular TV and one of them will be pay-per-view. But if both of those are pay-per-views, guys, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pay-per-views this year. If you include the Fury Wilder pay-per-view in December, man, that is 6 pay-per-views from PBC in less than a year. I mean, that's crazy. That is a lot of money they're asking for you guys. So hopefully one of those two fights, they should both come off. Garcia, and then Spence Porter. They're agreed to in principle already. They're just working out some details. But hopefully at least one of those fights is off pay-per-view. But man, if they both go pay-per-view, just look at the prices 3 quarters through, guys. DAZN is still what it cost you at the beginning of the year. ESPN, you had 1 pay-per-view. And then Showtime / Fox, the PBC, man, you're talking over $500. This is just to watch on television. This does not include buying a ticket and going to the actual fight. That would be different. Then we're talking a completely different price structure, right? But man, over $500. So again, these two fights that I have listed as pay-per-views, it's speculative. It's not official yet. And we don't know if ESPN will put together another pay-per-view at the end of this year. But from what I've been told, that will not happen. Now, if Teofimo Lopez ends up winning a title and him and Vasily Lomachenko end up fighting early next year around the Super Bowl, that could potentially be a pay-per-view. But I haven't even heard that for sure. So that's probably, if we get an ESPN pay-per-view, that's probably the next one. And even that is probably a 50-50. So I don't know, man. Just the pay-per-views here, to me, are what's killing PBC, because you finally, PBC came together, I believe, in 2015, if memory serves me correctly. These are the fights. These are the matchups that fans were promised. Now, occasionally, they have delivered. I think when Keith Thurman fought Sean Porter, that was good. When he fought Danny Garcia, that was good. They've had some good quality matchups here and there, but it's been very, very few and far in between. This year, you're starting to get some really good, solid matchups because they're having to compete. They're also trying to up their earnings because they're trying to sell the network, the platform, I should say. There's rumors that it's already been sold. There's rumors that they're still negotiating. But it's very, very clear that they're kind of searching and just feeling things out and seeing if they can sell that platform, or at least part of it. And I think that has something to do with these pay-per-views. But you look at all these pay-per-views, man, if these were on regular Showtime or on regular Fox, PBC would be absolutely destroying it this year. Nonetheless, really, really great matchups. And I think consistently, especially at welterweight, PBC is providing the best matchups so far in 2019. They're just asking you for the most money. And it's really up to you guys. Some of you guys don't care about spending this kind of money just to watch fights. Some of you do. And I understand that there's Team Stream, and a lot of you guys will go out there and just stream this stuff so it doesn't really hit your wallet. But again, I'm talking about the folks who actually are spending the money. And it's not like a controversial thing for me to say this. I mean, boxing is a sport that is a working class type of sport. Most people that watch boxing, most people that have fought, even if it's, to a low level, like a guy like me, or all the way up to professionals, people come from the lower class in boxing. It's not like, now there are some rich whales. That's who goes to the fights in Las Vegas and stuff and spends $5,000 for a ringside ticket. But the people watching the fights and buying the pay-per-views, for the most part, are working class folks, lower working class folks. So when you start looking at these numbers, man, it just makes me scratch my head. Who are we trying to market to? What kind of fans are we trying to bring in? because these numbers are getting crazy. Anyway, guys, just wanted to show you this graphic halfway through the year. Let me know what I'm missing, what I need to tweak, and we will continue to build on this graphic, and we'll do a comparison at the end of the year and see who had the best 2019 in regards to servicing the fans. Let me know where I'm off here. Is it about the money? Does the money not matter? Is it just about the fights? Or do both matter? All right, guys, I'll see you at the fights. Remember, the Neutral Corner podcast every Monday, live here on my YouTube channel, 7 p.m. Eastern. If you don't catch it live, then you can catch the audio podcast out on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, everywhere podcasts are heard. All right?